comments. I'm appealing to you to receive Onesimus back. And with him comes my very heart to tell you how much I love this man and how much I need him. I wished to keep him with me for the sake of ministry to me in my imprisonment for the gospel. Can you imagine someone newly converted out of paganism who was a slave ministering to the apostle Paul? Whatever it was about Onesimus was remarkable grace that God had poured in and through him that benefited Paul. But I wouldn't do that. Verse 14, without your consent. I don't want to do anything so that your goodness would somehow be by compulsion rather than your free will. Now, all of this is about reception. He knows that Onesimus is repentant. How does he know that? Because he's back. He knows that he must have been transformed because he's back. He knows there's a relationship that he has with Paul, and he's now a believer because that's the reason he's back, and that's the essence of the letter. Now, there is a kind of forgiveness that we must give even to those who don't seek it, okay? There is forgiveness we give even to those who don't seek it. That's why we forgive 70 times 7. People aren't going to come back to us and keep asking for forgiveness again and again, but we keep forgiving. But this is something different. This is how we respond to someone who seeks forgiveness. And here it is. Forgiveness begins with receiving the person. I don't want to see that person. I don't ever want that person in my presence again. I don't want to go near that person. I don't want to make any space in my life for them. Don't think I'll ever receive that person again. I don't want to talk to that person. No. When the offending person seeks to be forgiven, the first thing you do in the act of forgiveness is to receive that person. A personal reception, a willingness to close the gap, a willingness to cross the chasm, a willingness to heal the wound, to bring the person back into relationship. Onesimus qualifies for that. And as I said, that doesn't happen in situations where you forgive someone and they don't want to come back and they don't seek that forgiveness, but we forgive anyway because it's wrong to hold bitterness and a grudge and vengeance and hatred and anger in our hearts. Verse 10, I appeal to you for my child, another endearing term, Onesimus, whom I have begotten in my imprisonment. It was clear that Onesimus had repented because he was there in the presence of Philemon. The scene is very dramatic because as Philemon reads these words, there stands in front of him Onesimus. He has done the most dangerous thing, but the most righteous thing. He has come back humble, penitent, to face the man that he had wronged. Paul is asking in the letter, but Onesimus is asking for forgiveness in person. Paul softens the blow of that confrontation by prefacing the name of Onesimus, verse 10, with the words, my child, whom I have begotten in my imprisonment. Like Timothy, like Titus, and like Philemon, this fugitive slave is Paul's spiritual son. Paul was a human instrument God used to save him. Now, when he says, whom I have begotten in my imprisonment, he doesn't mean that apart from the grace of God he was begotten. No. He means that he is his father in the sense that he dispensed to him the gospel by which the Spirit of God gave him life and salvation. Paul identifies himself as a spiritual father in other places as well. So repentant Onesimus is standing there. He's humble. He's in the dangerous position of having stepped right back into the consequences of his crime. He is looking into the eyes of the one against whom he committed that crime. And he comes as a forgiven sinner. He left as merely a slave. He comes back now as a brother in Christ. He has been transformed. Verse 11 tells us about that transformation. Who formerly was useless